Hi, it's Kamon Reynolds, and we have a lot to talk about here on the 13th day of December. We're going to get into this colony and see if they have any brood. We're also going to be showing you some sugar bricks. We're also going to be talking about oxalic acid vapor a little bit, and why I think in areas like mine you should use it twice in winter. Now, first of all, let's get into this hive. Now, you look at this and you're like, what in the world are you doing, Kamon? I'm experimenting because I'm a bee nerd. You know, I like to try new things out, and Laurel says that my warm little hat here I got given for Christmas by my dad last year is kind of a little weird shaped, but then she's like, it might be your head. So you can leave your opinions on that below. I think it's the shape of the hat. Anyways, or the boggin, whatever you want to call them. But all we have is some tar paper here because I use migratory lids. And I don't have any telescoping covers, you know, which are the ones that go along the side. But we have insulative boards on some of our hives, and we're tinkering around with it a little bit and seeing if it's something we like to fool with later. You know, we're very mild here. It's like 40 degrees right now. It's drizzling. You can probably hear it hitting the roof over there. But so this is just a piece of tar paper, laid it down with a brick. Those cats keep hearing one meowing. So we just got a board you get from the hardware store. Migratory lid, very cheap lid. Got a video on that, making for like $3. I just found a source for wood that's even cheaper, but I don't think it's around anyone else but me. Bees are not as gentle this time of the year, FYI. It doesn't matter how gentle your stock are. In wintertime, they're a little more antsy. Alright. Woo! Liking that sugar brick a little bit. And this is a pretty nice looking hive. Oh, by the way, underneath that, well, I'll show it to you here in a little bit, but underneath that foam we have a piece of canvas to help keep, well, it'll keep them from chewing up that foam. Wow, look at that. And I just stuck it on this morning. There's nothing fancy about that recipe. It works very good, and I think it actually works better than some of the recipes that are suggested out there. And we'll explain why here in just a little bit. Man, they're really going to town on that thing. Alright, let's see if they're brooding below. I'm going to have to smoke these bees a little bit. Sorry, girls. I'll let you get back to it here in just a second. Now, we have a video on Mountain Camp Sugar, and that method also works very good, but one of the biggest issues with that, goodness gracious, there's bees all over this thing, is people don't get it moist all the way through, and then what happens is you have this harder outer shell, but on the inside it's all crumbly, just like a bag of sugar would be. And as the bees chew through that hard layer, it causes cave-ins, and they kick it out of the hive. They don't want it in little pieces like that. I mean, it really needs to be hard. So a lot of people don't spray it enough to make it turn into a full solid mountain of hard sugar. It's basically a sugar brick in a different form. Alright, and there's other ingredients you can stick in these sugar bricks, but we'll talk about that here in a second. Let's see if we've got any brood in this hive. Ooh, look at that brood. We haven't been unusually warm, but this hive is very healthy. There's a lot of bees down below. There's bees above. I can see capped brood on the adjacent frame, and one on the next over. Oh, look at that right there. So this stuff is really young. See that, Laurel? Mm-hmm. Boy, I like seeing that. And here we are in the middle of December. Now I know you can't get this in every location, but then my buddy keeps rubbing it into me that he's still making queens in Hawaii, so you know, everyone's got something different. Wow, there's a lot of brood on this side as well. So this colony's building up. Not a whole lot. I'm guessing they probably have, if you added it all together, 2, maybe 3 frames of bees at the most, or brood, excuse me. Ooh, these bees are needing a little more smoke. But they've got nothing to do, and it's much easier to get into a hive when they're busy foraging pollen or nectar, because they want something to do. Alright, we're going to smoke them down a little bit so we can put all this back together. But big clusters like this are born of young queens, dead mites, good nutrition. That's what we preach all the time. We don't have any fancy snake oils around here, unicorn dust powder, unicorn horn powder, I never get that right. We don't have anything like that. We just work. And you know, we're still getting better at our craft, but the main thing is giving the bees what they need. They're not unlike any other creature. They need nutrition. And it doesn't matter how tough your bees are or how young your queen is. If they don't have good nutrition, they're going to go backwards. And it doesn't matter how much nutrition they have and a good queen if the mites are in the thousands and they're eating the adult bees and the young alive and injecting them with viruses and bacteria. It's not going to work. So as a beekeeper, we do our best to keep them as healthy as possible. And you know, some people are going to say, well, what about these mite-resistant bees? If you've heard of them, I've probably tried them if they're in the United States. I'm talking individuals, I'm talking bigger companies, and I think there are merits. And we try to select for bees that are a little bit more resistant to the mites. But I think it's kind of wishful thinking to think that the mites are just going to disappear and go away forever. We could do a video for an hour on that. I've got a conference coming up. That's one of the things I'm going to be speaking on is varroa mites and bees becoming immune to them if they can, and probably what's more realistic. But we'll get into that another time. Alright, so we want to smoke these bees down because we don't want to crush any if we can help it. It's just such a beautiful colony right here. Now this colony was light. We did feed them some Pro Sweet down in here a week or two ago. They've sucked that all down, but I wanted to go ahead and give them this as well because I really felt like they could use just a little bit more, and I thought, well, you know, I've never done sugar bricks before in this form, so we give it a shot, and the bees obviously like it pretty well. Now these insulative boards right here are, you know, real simple. Again, this is just canvas right here. I've already started building wax up here. Bees building wax in December, folks, but they're very strong and healthy. Alright. Oh, yeah. Let's talk about how to make your own sugar bricks. Very easy to do. Check this hive out. I threw another one on over here. Oh yeah, they're liking that. Look at that cluster up there. Now, like I said, it's in the low 40s today. But a lot of bees generate a lot of heat. I need to put this back on real quick. So how are you going to make your own? It's very simple. Let's talk about the ingredients because I promised I would. Now, there's a lot of variables here because, and I think this falls into a ton of beekeeping, a ton. But we're really bad, especially as new beekeepers. Hey, I used to be there. And you read something, oh, that makes sense, and then you just start spreading the word. And you do that out of really a good intention. I mean, you're trying to help other beekeepers. You're trying to help spread the word on how to take better care of your bees. But sometimes the information that we have is a partial truth. It happens a lot. And blanket statements are really dangerous because what I can do here, you can't do in Canada. And you know, there's a lot of variables. Some things we both can do. But fundamental beekeeping translates no matter where you go. But what I'm talking about is, let's talk about ingredients into this sugar brick. There are some people that put electrolytes for livestock in there. Oh, electrolytes are good, let's throw that in there. Some people are putting tons of vinegar. They're putting tons of essential oils. They're doing all these things. And is that bad? Is that good? Mostly we don't know. I've yet to see good research on a lot of this stuff, and what I have on vinegar in honeybee pathology shows that vinegar actually shortens the lifespan of the bee by a little bit. And so now people are like, whoa, okay, shortens the lifespan of the bee, then this must be an evil product. Not so fast. Beekeeping's complicated. You know, humans, when healthy, can live quite a long time. Well, bees, when healthy, can live quite a bit longer, but it's still a very short time for us humans. So during spring, when ideal nutrition's coming in, you have all the beautiful hickory catkins making the pollens, and the oaks and the maples, and these pollens are so healthy for the bees, and there's just protein and fat and micro and macronutrients all over the hive. And the bees live the longest at this point, good nectar coming in. But when summer comes, even if you don't feed them anything, and they have plenty of food in the hive, and they have excess, they have plenty of honey because you left them enough, they have good frames of bee bread, but here there's no really good protein coming in, or nectar, in summer. So our bees are naturally shorter lived during our summertime. And it's normal. Bees hold back on the brood that's raised in June, July, and August here because there's not a whole lot of incoming forage. A lot of European scientists that were doing research on nutrition, I believe they were out of Germany, don't hold me to that, but basically they would turn a sprinkler system on, and as soon as it started hitting the hives, the bees would stop bringing in pollen, and they noticed within just a handful of hours they started feeding the larvae less worker jelly, which is slightly different than royal jelly. So they were already starting to hold back in a short period of time. This is something that we have to think about when it comes to summer dearth periods. And so naturally bees live shorter in summer. So I'm trying to just kind of build you a picture here on why we have to be careful with blanket statements. Now, if we were to feed the bees in summer and they have no food, they don't have enough honey, they don't have enough bee bread, and we feed them sugar syrup and we feed them pollen sub and ultra bee or something like that, those bees are going to be shorter lived than the ones that are feeding off of nectar and the ones that are feeding off of all good healthy proteins coming from good quality pollen. It's just normal. However, if you had a split or a swarm in late spring in this area or wherever your area and you're in a dearth period and you don't feed, so you have the ideal, which is the perfect nutrition from nature, you have feeding bees an artificial sub and sugar syrup, it's a little bit lower on how long they'll live, and then you have not enough nutrition, which usually ends up putting you down here 6 feet under. This is something we have to consider. Now, I'm a big proponent of letting your bees have plenty of honey. Don't take too much. We leave our fall honey, I think we harvested maybe a couple gallons of fall honey just for kicks, but we really try to let the bees go through on natural stuff. But there's a lot of variables here. That is all to say that I know a lot of beekeepers that feed vinegar and have essential oils in their feed. They have this and they have that, and they have very healthy bees. I don't like the thought of having extra stuff in my feeds. I don't put any essential oils in. I don't put any vinegar. I don't put any citric acid. I don't do anything. Because it's my opinion, especially when it comes to a food source like honey or sugar syrup, or when we're trying to mimic that, it needs to be clean. Bees naturally filter out nectar a lot to try to get all the junk out of there to preserve it. And then on top of that, because during winter months, they need it to be clean so it doesn't cause dysentery and stuff like that. Now here in Tennessee, you can get away with a ton of stuff because we have cleansing flights all the time. This is, again, smoke follows beauty. Yeah. It's totally different though. If you're up in Canada, Vermont, those northern places, you might not have a cleansing flight for I don't know how long. I've heard some crazy stuff, months. And your bees need to have high quality wintering feed in order to heat that cluster and not come down with gut problems. Here in Tennessee, goodness, I bet my bees will have a cleansing flight 4 times in January minimum. And here we are in December. I guarantee we've had 7 days worth of cleansing flights, at least in December. So, variables, variables, variables. Alright, so you're like, Kamon, we get the point. Let's make some stuff. Let's do it. Alright. So it's very simple. Very, very simple if you do mind. Recipe. And that's... How do I get leaves in there? Well, talk about roughage in your feed right there. We'll have to pull those needles and stuff out. Yeah, the bees would pick that out. Too big. We have 5 pounds of sugar in here, just regular sugar. The nice thing about white sugar, it has no minerals in it. Now for humans, minerals is really important, but bees don't need it really in their feed. And now we have half a cup of water that we just added. Now if you're in Europe, that's, what is it, 180? No, what is it?
120, 118, 120.
Ah, that's it. See, that's why I keep Laurel around, because she keeps me from doing stupid things. So 118 to 120 milliliters of water will work. So we're just going to take that and we're just going to mix it all up. And we're making kind of like a powder, like if you're on a ski slope or something like that, and they've got that artificial snow. That's kind of the texture it's going to be at the end of this. It sounds like my battery is going dead. Oh my goodness, Kamon. Well, it's just one of those days. Just one of those days. Alright, keep drilling until you get it uniformly wet. I'm going to have to get another drill. I knew I should have charged this battery. I'm telling you, it's just been one of those days. We all have them though, don't we? The bees are looking good, that's all that matters. But you'll want to just drill that until it's uniformly mixed, and it's going to look like, if you ever go skiing, one of those places that uses the artificial snow, it's going to have like kind of like that texture, kind of like a ice crystal snowish mix. And all you're going to do is take pans that are like this. You can, you literally can make these things as big as underneath your lid, whatever size lid you're using. You can make I can put a couple of these down in there. You can make them thick, you can make them thin, you can do all kinds of stuff. Just put them in a pan. Now the thing of it is, you want to stick them in the oven for about 5 hours, about 150 degrees, 170 degrees, somewhere in that temperature, for about 5 hours, so all that moisture kind of like bakes out of there and just creates the hard break that you saw earlier. Now what I did with my last batch of those two is I just stuck them next to my wood stove and just left them overnight. I didn't get them real close, but enough, and they worked fantastic. So anyways, you can add ingredients to this. I see no reason to, but it's one of those things where I think it comes down to personal decisions. And again, I know some great beekeepers who every year are putting stuff like that on their hive with essential oils, citric acid, electrolytes. They're putting vinegar in there and their bees do great. So even though I might be right and it shortens their lifespan a little bit, overall it's working for them. And that's where we have to be less judgmental and more encouraging. Focus on what we have in common, because there's a lot to learn, and unfortunately we only get to live so long. So keep learning, keep thinking, keep beekeeping. If you have any comments or questions about this zany video where my drill didn't work out, leave them below.